Ladies and gentlemen, all rise. Court is back in session. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Devil's Due. I am your host, Carl Duty. With me, as always, is the man who constantly runs upstairs when being chased by the murderer, Mr. Drew Celestino.
That doesn't sound like it would bode well for me.
Well, you know, it's one of the classic mistakes.
Yeah.
The front door's right there.
That and the whole no virginity thing.
Yeah. We do kind of buck the geek stereotype in that.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Folks, here we are again. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. You're far away from me today.
I just so far. Just reach out.
Well, it's because we're in a different spot.
Reach out to us. We are in the Monte Carlo studios at my abode, my humble home. Did that to accommodate our guests who will be chiming in later. Yeah, this was...
They're under gag order now.
They're under gag order for the moment. Folks, as we were just talking before we started here, contrary to what the final product may appear, a lot of times we're just kind of caught off guard about, especially in the in-between seasons of Netflix shows, of what we're going to do, and we kind of found ourselves in that situation yesterday when we do have a show planned, but we want to save it for one more week, so we're going to be doing that next week, and then we just had no show.
Well,
coming into today.
That's okay. If my upbringing on Mystery Science Theater has taught me nothing, it's that improvisation and spontaneous riffing is often the best strategy.
Right. Yeah.
Think on your feet, and good things will happen.
Yep.
Unless you're, president, but whatever.
Yeah, not so much with him. Okay, opening statement, sir. How was your week?
Uneventful, yet eventful in the wrong ways. So...
That doesn't sound good.
It wasn't. I mean, it's been average at
wrong?
best. Nothing's I don't want to say wrong.
Are you still employed?
I am still employed.
Is your wife still alive?
Yes.
All the dogs still alive?
Yes.
Well,
I mean, yeah, that's all good. But, we could do better than that. Right?
I'm just saying establishing a baseline of not bad things that have happened.
Nothing to that effect. But, I don't know. Just, we didn't have game night. I was kind of not just feeling up to
That's
it.
All right.
Need a little breather. Took
game
a breather.
Night, as fun as it is, every once in a while we just need a break.
Just gotta, just, So, yeah. Need a little breather. Took the breather. Good times. Saturday, we had some friends over for dinner. Nice little evening there. I also managed to beat SteamWorld Dig 2 for the Switch on Saturday as well. Great game.
That was
strongly. Quick. It was, I put some time in. When I get into a game, I'll have some 2-hour, 3-hour sessions. Next thing you know, game's over. Having said that,
the people living in the charred ruins of the land of Hyrule might have a problem with your claim to expediency, sir.
I was as expedient as one could be when you pour 240 hours into a game.
Alrighty.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, SteamWorld Dig 2 is great. I finished it with about 65% secret percentage, so there's a little replay value there. I might go back and try and find more stuff.
Okay.
Definitely a great game. I would recommend it to anybody. Sunday had another uneventful day. I kind of chilled at home, put my feet up, and had my dad over for dinner. My sister came too. That was nice. But I also discovered on Sunday that my utility sink in my basement was backing up from normal usage of water in the house. That's not good.
Does your washing machine drain into that?
It does, but that's not what was causing it to back up. Anything was causing it to back up.
Ooh.
It's like, flush the toilet. Why is there water in my sink? Oh, take a shower. Why is the sink filling up? So, we've been on very limited, sporadic water usage in the house since Saturday.
Okay.
So, had the plumber out today, and that's always a good time. Although, he's always out. It's outside, so he comes over, finds the stack or whatever the hell it is. I'm not a plumber. I don't know. I'm not Mario. I don't know these things. I love Mario, but I'm not Mario.
Did you ask him to dress as Mario?
I did not. I did not. And Mario, as a plumber, let me tell you, that's a lie. Bold-faced lie. No plumber in their right mind is wearing white gloves on the job. That's just not happening. That's true. In any case, maybe that's why Nintendo disavowed that he's a plumber anymore. He's no longer a plumber.
Quite possibly.
Allegedly. But
although,
sorry, Nintendo, I'm not buying it. He's a plumber.
For most, if memory serves, for most of the time, he did not have the white gloves.
Oh, I think he did.
Sunshine was the first game where he had the white gloves.
I think you should leave this to me. And trust me.
Why? You never trust me on anything I know more about than you do, so why should I trust you on this one?
Carl, let's be fair.
Right,
I know more than you.
Go on with the rest of your week. Going to this after
so, yeah, they came over today and snaked out my lines. I have some serious root issues from my trees.
You are root?
I am root.
You are root?
I am root. So now I'm on an annual schedule of snaking. So that's going to be a good time every September.
Snake?
Yeah.
Snake?
Kind of like that.
Snake!
Yeah. I missed Metal Gear Solid when it was good. Before it got really stupid and over the top and ridiculous. Remember that? Remember PlayStation 1?
Gonna reserve comments in the interest of time. Yeah. Please continue with your week.
Oh, you're a rating guy, huh? Good big ups.
I never said that.
Woo!
Never said that.
I could follow this story. It's good. It's good. I don't know what's happening, but it's good, right? I just watched a 4-hour cutscene and I played for 10 minutes. It's awesome! Thanks for that, Hideo. Good job, buddy. Anyway, I'm good. That's it. That's really all that's going on. I'm just a little... Between that and my car having to go to Orchard Park and back yesterday for fixes and things, I'm just a little worn out.
Yeah.
Plumbing issues and auto issues are not a good time, so that's here I am. Hi, how you doing?
Cool.
Yeah, no, not really. Supper 2.
Let's see. Thursday night was X-Wing night.
You don't say that with confidence, so I'm gonna just let that lie.
Friday night we didn't have game night. Friday night, Julie and I watched Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes. I keep forgetting to buy these things when they get released.
Still, really great movie, still enjoyable. I still have all the same problems with it I had before. Flash Thompson's terrible. No spider sense. Why is Spider-Man driving a car?
Because why not?
Because he's Spider-Man, not Batman. Saturday was an X-Wing tournament.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I got off the losing streak.
Yeah.
Per se. But, and I was also within 4 or 5-ish hit between the two games. There were 3 games total because there wasn't a lot of people at the tournament. I lost 2, I won 1. I felt better about the 2 games I lost than I did the game I won.
That's not weird.
Because, well, let me put it this way. If I had lost the game that I won, I would have quit right then and there and sold all my ships and just given up.
Wow.
Because the gentleman I was playing was relatively, I don't know if he was new and was just still like learning the game within the game, whatnot. Or if he's just been playing for a long time, it's just not his game per se. Trying to find a really nice way of saying he wasn't good at the game.
So you beat some low-hanging fruit, in other words.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know.
I said to a friend of mine, sometimes in victory you gain nothing.
Well, look at it this way. If that's how it is, you should beat him.
But that's exactly what I said. If I hadn't beat him, that would have been it.
Okay.
The 2 games I lost were against very high level skilled players. On the regular Thursday nights I go to, the first game I lost was against probably the second best player there, extremely knowledgeable. And he said, like, you did, because he knows I've been kind of frustrated lately with the losing streak. I was like, you did everything. You did extremely well in this. Just came up short. I was within 1 hit of winning that game. But the problem was He got behind my ship, and the particular ship I was flying is essentially a dump truck because it does, if you get in front of it, you're going to be hurting. But if you get behind it, it's got very limited maneuverability, so I just couldn't get back in front.
He got you from behind, huh?
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yep.
Yeah.
He was gentle though.
That's all you can ask for.
Yeah. Then the second game I lost, there were just a couple missed opportunities and whatnot. So I mean, I felt better coming out of the tournament than I did going into it.
Okay.
So I hope that, the extended losing streak is over and we're on an upward swing.
All right.
Sunday, we met up with a friend of ours for a fall festival thing in Elm Lawn Park.
No, you're all fall, so yeah.
I love fall.
Good for you.
We were there for maybe 20 minutes. It was
what a festival!
Yeah, it was not good. It was not what.
That's a party.
It was not what was advertised at. Then just to kill time, we ended up going to Whole Foods to check it out.
Okay.
We ate at their
So how much is your new mortgage?
Yeah, pretty much. We ate their cafe. The wife ordered chicken wings, and they do chicken wings interestingly.
Okay. Go on.
Because you can order buffalo-style chicken wings on the menu. It says buffalo-style, blue cheese, celery, chicken wings. What they don't tell you is that they dice up the blue cheese and the celery and toss it in with the wings when they're tossing it in the sauce.
Okay.
It's an interesting approach. It added an interesting flavor to the wings, but I would not want to do it on a regular basis.
Okay. Well, I'm not a blue cheese guy, so I wouldn't have done that at all.
So that was that. And then Sunday night we had dinner with some friends of ours. That was fun. Monday, didn't really do anything Monday. That brings us here Tuesday.
You know what else I did on Monday, just before I forget? I don't want to spoil it for you, but we finished Ultima Lucha Trace.
Ooh!
Oh.
I can't wait for it to come to Netflix.
It's everything. Ultima Lucha Trace was amazing.
And
the ending was amazing.
Well, because you've kind of mentioned in passing a couple times before, is there going to be a Lucha Underground Season 4?
Based on the way Season 3 ended, I really hope so, because there's a lot of dangling threads.
All right.
And I mean mega cliffhangers.
Yeah. So that was our week, dear listeners. If you would like to tell us about your weeks, send us some comments, questions, whatnot, you can do so at the following social media locations. You can find us on Twitter at Devils Do Pod. You can go to facebook.com/Devils Do Pod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. That being said, Drew, It's time for some cross-examination. We have 2 emails this week. First off, Mr. J. Gelsimino. No Alan Waiters this week.
Tango
of Tango and Cash. He starts out saying, "Forgive the use of my work email. Feels more professional this way. Jay, we love you, but we don't care. Just as long as you get us the email."
Quick, forward that to HR. This is what this guy does with his time.
Drew and Carl.
Hi.
If you could cast the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage in any buddy cop movie, what would it be?
Tango and Cash. Warrior is pure Cash. Macho being he'd be a slightly edgier Tango, but still, given the dynamic between the two of them, Warrior is far more unhinged, so he would therefore have to be Cash.
Okay. I'm going to go with Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
Because Ultimate Warrior, you got the crazy Mel Gibson type character. And sure, Macho Man doesn't line up with the Danny Glover character at all, but Lethal Weapon's my favorite action series. So.
We'll go with that.
Yep. Drew, what metal band would you give the Harlem Globetrotters / Kiss treatment and put in a Scooby-Doo cartoon?
This is a very good question. Who would pair well with Scooby-Doo? They have to be self-aware, and they have to be willing to be ridiculous.
Sounds like a job for Guar to me.
Yeah, no, because Guar's dead. I don't care if they're still around. Once Odor has died, sorry. Wrap it up, boys. Silly costumes are only going to get you so far.
Dragon Force?
No. Oh, God. No. I said self-aware, not cheesy.
That's Carl poking the bear, folks.
I am selfishly going to say, even though the band is not around, but by extension, Strappy Young Lad / Devin Townsend Project would be perfect for Scooby-Doo, because Devin Townsend is a complete goofball, and he would buy in wholeheartedly and make it a lot of fun.
No Metallica?
Nah. It would be fun, but nah. Nah, they did the Simpsons appearance. That was enough.
All right. I mean...
Plus, that's time away that they don't need to be taking away from doing Metallica things. Well, I don't want another 8-year gap between albums. So you just get the tour going, rock on, next album. Let's go. You're in your 50s now, guys. Time be short. So let's get them in while we can.
They do it. They do occasionally do the paycheck gig. Hashtag Budweiser. Okay. Oop, phone closed.
See what you get? See?
Carl, if the Fantastic Four is potentially coming back to Marvel, what is your cast roster? The catch, as always, is they need to be characters from the Jaws franchise.
Yeah. Jay, you're getting predictable, buddy.
All right. We're going to start youngest. We're going to go Johnny Storm. We're going to go... Oh, which half of them?
He could play 2 characters.
Oh, poor Kidner boy. No, we're going to go with Michael Brody from Jaws 2. Cocky teenager willing to disobey authority to go out and get what he wants.
Makes sense.
For Invisible Woman, how do you not go Ellen Brody? I'd say you probably have to go Jaws 1, Ellen Brody.
Okay.
Mr. Fantastic, I'm actually going to go with Hooper.
Yes.
Richard Dreyfuss from Jaws 1.
Yes, he's the
smarter. And
smarter
also kind of gives a toss back to the book where Hooper and Mrs. Brody actually got it on.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
Hang on.
In the book, Hooper and Mrs. Brody had an affair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Weird.
Kind of makes you view that boyish Richard Dreyfuss grin in a little different light, doesn't it?
Slightly. Also, his patronizing tone to Roy Scheider.
Yeah. The Thing. Wow. We got to go Brody. We got to go Roy Scheider, Martin Brody.
No.
Gruff New York police guy. It's my movie. I'm casting it.
Quint all the way for Thing?
No, Quint's Dr. Doom.
Jaws is Dr. Doom.
No.
You're all over the map here, man.
Quint is Dr. Doom.
I don't know about that.
Farewell and adieu to Fantastic Four Invisible Lady.
Okay. I'm not buying it, but all right.
It's okay. I don't need you to buy it. It's my question. I'm answering.
Well, good job.
I don't know where we'd fit the shark in. You know what? Shark's Galactus.
Oh. Yeah, eat stuff. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's the surfer?
Calvin Bouchard from Jaws 3. Louis Gossett Jr. Come on. What else you got for me?
I don't even know anymore.
Alicia Masters. Leah Thompson from Jaws 3.
Leah Thompson can be in any movie she wants anytime.
This is true. All right. That was it for Jay. Jay, thank you very much. Next questions are from Mr. Emmanuel Marin, our friend in Staten Island. Dear Drew,
I'm still waiting for your address, dude.
T-shirt size is 3XL for I'm an ample-sized gentleman.
I don't have 3Xs. Sorry, guy.
I'll send him a pic.
I can do that.
Okay. Dear Carl, I'm having a crap day. What are your top 3 venting movies?
Ooh. Venting movies?
Yeah, like movies you want to watch. Movies you got to watch if you just want to blow off steam. That's tough. Thinking mindless action. So I'll say any of the Expendable films, because they're all great. I don't know. I don't really have like venting mood. When I need to vent, blow off steam, I play video games.
Okay.
I go more participatory violence. You remember the game? This actually reminds me of something funny. You remember the game Force Awakens? Came out PlayStation. The first one came out on PlayStation 2. Second one came out on PlayStation 3. You probably ignored it.
You mean
Force Unleashed?
That's the
Force
one.
Unleashed.
Force Awakens. Whoa.
So I had that game. I loved those games. They were a lot of fun, really great, told a good story. Julie could always tell when I had a bad day from work when I had those games, because I would boot that game up and find some poor stormtrooper. I would grab him with the Force, slam him off walls, throw him into a TIE fighter, cause TIE fighter to explode, grab him out of the air from that, throw my lightsaber through his chest, hit him with Force lightning, slam him up and down on the ground a couple times.
Now I see why none of your toys survived your childhood.
Well, you know. Gotta be built to last. So yeah, I would say, as far as video games go, Street Fighter, any decent first-person shooter will do, stuff like that. Finally, just for laughs, what are your thoughts on Samuel L. Jackson offering acting classes online? Which I guess apparently is the thing, because he sent us a link.
Okay, you know Sam's got that reputation for being like the hardest working man in Hollywood, because he takes like everything that comes across his desk, basically.
Not really, but okay, I'll take.
He has a reputation for
yeah.
He's in everything, and he notoriously will take basically any gig.
Credit card commercials.
My question is, I admire the work ethic.
Yeah,
and now he's doing this online.
Admire the hustle.
I admire the hustle, but now I have the underlying questions. Why do you need to work so much? Are you in Nicolas Cage levels of really stupid and poor decision-making debt? Are you, do you have a loan shark after you?
A loan shark caught him.
Are you? Did you develop the hooker and coke habit? I'm okay.
The cooker and hoke.
That's right.
That sounds like a 70s buddy cop movie.
So he's got the hooker and coke addiction from the 20s and just never quite kicked it into his 60s now?
Yeah, or maybe he just wants to work. Maybe
Again,
he's one of those guys who just remember what it was like to not have work and wants to make sure that...
I admire the hustle. But as a guy who works...
Yep.
If I were in his position, I would be doing as little as possible.
Yeah. All right, so that...
Scrooge McDuckin every day.
You can't actually swim through coins, Drew. It's extremely unhygienic.
What about bills?
Still as unhygienic, but more feasible.
I'm going to go with that then.
Okay. That brings our cross-examination to a close. Now we got to get into case files. Going to be very brief case files this week. Only 2 items, really. Starting with the one that's not pertinent to the show at all. I mean, kinda. But the Venom film has officially started production, Drew.
It has. They're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Sony with Venom, and...
They've started production.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a thing. But they can't say Spider-Man in it. They can't talk about him. But it's Venom. But there's no Spider-Man. You know that? You know the ASCII text, the text throwing up your arms in confusion? That's me right now.
Yeah,
whatever.
You know what? There are better train wrecks out there to watch. # Justice League.
We don't know that yet.
True.
Come on. We don't know yet.
So I was actually thinking about that today.
Go on. We're weeks away. I still feel no hype for this movie at all.
What? Okay, interesting question. What is less hyped at this point?
Go on.
Justice League or Xbox One X?
Ooh. Wow. Yeah. Oof.
Because, like I mentioned to you the other day during Sunday while I was watching football, I saw my first non-Taco Bell Xbox One X commercial.
I've been seeing nothing but the Taco Bell one.
It's coming out in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess Xbox would win that fight because, I mean, Justice League is at least, like, trying to do stuff.
Are they, though?
Kinda. I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I think I saw a commercial on football, but I might have. I don't know.
Do you think maybe Warner Brothers doesn't want to dump high advertising dollars into this because they know it's Snyder's last gasp in their movie universe before?
Is it though?
Yeah, it is.
Is it though?
Yeah. He's pretty much done after this.
Okay, I'll believe that one. They've given him so much rope. I feel like they'll just be like, "Yeah, come back, do another one," and he'll be like, "Okay, bro,
dude.
I'll do another one."
Okay, so yeah, that's Venom.
And additionally, he's not really going to be a. It's not going to be Tom Hardy.
Well, it's going to be like he's going to Andy Serkis it.
Yeah.
Well, what'd you expect him to do with the visual of it?
Just put him in a costume. Have him run around.
No, Venom's a CG character.
I guess.
If you want to do him right, if you want to portray him as he's portrayed in the comics, he's a CG character.
Do you think Sony cares about keeping him accurate to the comics?
I never made any claims to that.
Well, I mean, we can't even mention Spider-Man, so what are we doing? Like, what's the point?
Maybe it'll be a secret war that... No.
Marvel's not letting that one out.
Yeah. Okay, so
there's that.
There's that.
That's a
this
thing.
week, we got finally got the announcement of the Punisher premiere date, which will be November 17th.
Yep. I will be away, sir.
You are going to be away. You have a trip to the Thailand.
Yes, sir.
Coming up.
Yes. I'm going to be taking on Sagat for control of Shadowloo.
All right. Listen, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Drew. I would not advise you taking on Sagat.
The way I look at it, he's already at a disadvantage being one-eyed and all. So if I can blind him somehow, I have a shot.
How are you going to blind him? Do you think he's going to let you set up a step ladder?
I'm spry, dude. I could jump.
We're talking like you would need Michael Jordan level hops.
I got hops
to get up there.
I'm a hoppy guy.
Because he's like just under 8 feet.
Yeah, I'm not buying that in the real world. I saw the movie. He's not very big.
Oh, that's like me saying I saw the G.I. Joe movie. It was an accurate representation. Snake Eyes has lips.
I saw that in the movie sometime.
You're going to Thailand.
I am. I'm going to be gone.
We got to record a couple bank shows because we don't want you, the dear listener, going without the dulcet tones of our voice for 2 weeks.
You'll be getting content. It just won't be as current.
Yes.
Until I get back. Then we're back.
Hopefully nothing will happen geek-wise in those 2 weeks.
We'll see. So anyway, yeah, November 17th, Punisher. New trailer and all that. I'm going to have a lot more to say about this as time goes on.
Yeah, because the new trailer, we both had the same concerns over it.
I have mounting concerns over this Punisher situation.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get really uncomfortable.
So am I.
I don't know what they're... Maybe we should wait until the show gets closer, but I'm not...
What do you mean wait till the show? This is what we do.
I guess.
Our concerns are that they're trying to humanize him and make him sympathetic.
They're trying to make him, from what I can gather from the show, they're trying to make him more sympathetic. They're trying to give him... but they're tying into his origin and all the CIA conspiracy stuff, and they're making his mission a little more justifiable. How's that? Yeah, they're trying to make what he's doing more justifiable.
Yeah,
which in turn is a reason to make him sympathetic. It makes us want to see him do what he does. It's not what the Punisher's supposed to be.
The thing that really killed me is the line, "They killed my family to get to me."
Right.
Because it's what you see in the Punisher and at least the Thomas Jane movie, and also with a lot of the more recent Batman stuff that's dealt with his origin. They're taking away the random act.
I hate that. I loathe that.
And they're missing the point that the random act is what helps define it.
Right.
Like,
Right.
this thing happened that neither one of these characters could do anything about in the moment.
It's also known as Star Wars syndrome. We have this big, vast, epic story, and everything is all tied together in a little. You could put it in your pocket. Everything's everything that could ever happen is right here. See, look at that. Look at all these things that are all linked together, even though they had no connection before. We're gonna make it all sync up real nice and just put it in your pocket.
Yeah, I still have confidence that it will ultimately be good.
I hope so. Bernthal's great. I think
Bernthal's the definitive Punisher.
Yeah, he's going to do a great job. I know that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want them making him sympathetic, and I don't think that they should be tying his origin into all this business, and I'm a little concerned. I think what I'm worried about is, like, they're just going to take the teeth off of him to a degree. Like, oh, yeah, he'll go out and kill people and whatnot, but again, you can't make him into a I'm air quoting, a hero.
Yeah.
He's not a hero. He's a monster.
He's not even an anti-hero.
No, he's a serial killer.
He's an
He just happens to prey on other bad people worse than him.
Yeah, he's an unstoppable force of nature that just either get on board or get out of the way.
Right, and it should be, if nothing else, it should be a somewhat satisfying to the viewer in terms of seeing really horrible things happen to horrible people that deserve it, but it's a cautionary tale at best.
Yeah. The Punisher is not a broad appeal character.
No. He, again, like you said, he's a force of nature. You can't put it... Honestly, he's a difficult character to kind of give a show, and this was my concern when they announced it, even though I want more of Bernthal as the Punisher.
Yeah.
It's hard to anchor a show to a character who, honestly, he's not going to have an arc. The Punisher has no arc. He's fully formed. This is what he does. He knows he's good at it. He wants to do it. He sees no other way but to do what he does.
Yeah.
That's it. And anyone that comes in contact with him, it's not good for them.
Yeah.
Even good people with good intentions. Encountering him is bad. But he accepts that, and that's his world. And that's it. He has no arc. Anything that he does is just part of his mission, and that's all.
Yep.
So I have a hard time with people who I love the Punisher stuff,
yeah,
right? But I wouldn't sit there and say that he's someone that I aspire to be or admire. But I love the stories, and I love, but when I see people with, for instance,
80% of pickup trucks
with Punisher skulls on them, and I'll go the step further because I have seen this, and it was thankfully met with public outcry. Police with Punisher skulls on their cars. Saw a car in the parking lot the other day. Punisher skull sticker on the window with a blue stripe on it.
No, that doesn't.
Someone's
work
missing the
level.
message here, man.
That's like a criminal dressing up as Batman.
It's hey, this guy who kills people? He represents us. I feel it. And Law and Order. What? You know who else wore skulls on their uniforms, guys? The Nazis did. And last I checked, we're not. No, despite the news.
Yeah.
No, we ain't down with that. So.
Yeah.
Let's just pump the brakes on all this Punisher sympathetic, stuff.
Right.
I like Punisher.
Yeah.
But anyway, November 17th. Let's hope it's not all these things I fear it will be.
Yep.
But we'll see.
When do you leave on your trip again?
The 12th? 11th or 12th. The day after Doom comes out for Switch.
So you'll be in town for Justice League. So maybe you and Alan can all go to the theater and take it in together.
What day is Justice League?
I think it's 7th.
I mean, we could. I don't know if I will. Good luck with that.
I know Thor is the first Friday, and then Justice League is the next
Oh, I know
Friday.
when Thor is.
Oh, we're going to Thor.
Going to Thor.
We're going to Thor.
It's going to make all the money.
Yes, it will. Okay, that brings the case files to a close. Drew, we are less than a week from my favorite holiday of the year, Halloween.
This is Halloween.
There you go.
That's all I know. Just that.
Did you ever?
Just that part.
Okay. So we felt, since we didn't really do much around the holiday this year, we felt that we should do Not just one, but I guess you can argue next week's episode is pseudo Halloween themed.
In the movie, yeah, it is.
Yeah, next week we're going to do a retrospective on The Crow, both film and the graphic novel.
Yes, sir.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. We hope you join us all next week. This week, however, we have two guests on the show.
Two.
Now, these gentlemen I've known both for some time, one considerably longer than the other, but I was thinking it'd be great to have a discussion on horror films. That being said, though, I have no claim to any type of excessive knowledge of horror films, past or present. As much as, you and I have spoken, Drew, you enjoy horror films, but you don't necessarily claim to be an expert.
By no means, no.
So I felt we should bring in my opinion, two experts on horror films. Now, because horror is so big, we have an expert on horror from the past, from the very beginnings of horror. I would say up until about modern horror started in the 70s, give or take. So our past horror expert is Mr. Nate Lockhart, host of the Geekiverse podcast, The Memory Machine, that we've mentioned here on the show a couple times.
Cheap plug.
So you can check him out on that. Nate, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'm here. I was holding my breath that whole time.
That's impressive.
Yeah. But hi, yes, I host The Memory Machine. It's a podcast on the Geekiverse Network. Check about old stuff, because that's what I know.
You do
old
know
things.
Anything that happened before your lifetime, you are versed in.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I was joking.
I knew a lot of Disney dates when I was like 7. I had a book on Disney history, and I memorized a lot of the dates for releases of different shorts and things like that.
And you found a woman to marry you.
I know, right?
Staggering.
I'll tell you though, having this podcast, this Memory Machine podcast, has been really good for our marriage, because I no longer have to, it's a great outlet for all this knowledge stored up in my brain, so I don't have to spit it out at her all the time and have her listen to it. She'll say, why do I know what the Vectrex is? It's because you talk about it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
So Nate being our classic horror expert, we also have a modern horror expert. Now, this gentleman I met many, many moons ago when I was working at a small rental chain that some of you youngins may have heard about called Blockbuster.
The young ones don't know what that is. Come on.
Wow, what a difference. That's all I'm saying.
Look it up in your history book.
Show us your cards, America. Mr. Jim Martin I met while I was working at Blockbuster. We immediately hit it off and struck up a friendship that I'm very happy to say has endured to this day. Jim, I am willing to say, is an expert in modern horror. Now, the man has no doctorate in this subject, as far as I know.
If I could find one, that'd be fantastic.
He doesn't have his own podcast per se, but a wise man once said, game recognizes game. And when it comes to modern horror, anything 1970s and forward, Jim is well-versed in it. The man can safely say that Robert Englund knows him by name.
Yeah, that's what stalker behavior gets you.
So
He has to know it's on the restraining order.
He spelled it right, so I guess that's important.
So, I guess the most important place would be to start at the beginning for each of us is where did we first encounter, what was your first horror movie?
Who are you asking?
Just whoever wants to fire out first.
Okay.
I'll default to the guests here. I'm boring.
I'll default to the guy sitting next to me.
Sure. Yeah, I 100% know mine. It's actually one of my favorite stories to tell. It's Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. A lot of people...
Part 2?
Yeah, right. A lot of people start with, the first of a series, right? And I grew up in an area around a lot of older kids, and they were all talking about Freddy Krueger, right? So we're talking I'm 5 years old, So we're like 1987. So this is like right when Freddy started, because the first one came out in 84. So, home video being what it was, Freddy just started hitting the shelves with the two movies. And I, being an annoying 5-year-old, just begged my mother, just please let me see this. I want to know what all these kids are talking about. And she thought, all right, well, this is just going to be a punishment. I'm going to shut them up. And you guys remember those old wood box covered TVs?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, those are great.
You couldn't put them on anything except the floor.
Console televisions.
Right. So
those things are gorgeous.
This is my living room, big block glass window in the one side, television there. Like I can still picture everything in my head. And she turned off every light in the house, sat me down in front of the television, and was like, all right, you're watching this. You're watching it by yourself. I don't want to hear, right? I was like, I don't want to hear anything. I don't care if you cry. I don't care if you scream. You're staying until it's done. I'm out. And just went upstairs. And, I remember everything. The soundtrack was amazing. Like the whale sounds that they used for like the background noise, and just like Freddy was absolutely terrifying. One of the last times, honestly, in the series that he was really pitch perfect scary. Like right around 3 is where they started to let his humor come out a bit.
Welcome to prime time.
Right, right. That he started getting like a little, with the catchphrases.
Yeah.
And it was a Mark Patton who played the hero character. I didn't know it when I was 5, but a male as the final girl character. You're not used to that, but here I am as a little boy. I'm like, oh, it's a guy. Oh, he's being chased by that burned face man. I'm not liking this at all. I'm terrified. And I remember just crying and being terrified. But one of the clearest memories of it was when it was over. I remember crawling over, hitting stop, hitting rewind, and watching it again, like immediately again.
Yeah.
And from then on, I was hooked. Like that punishment backfired like nothing else for that poor woman. And thousands upon thousands of dollars later, memorabilia, tattoos, house, is just decked out. And Nightmare on Elm Street's been my favorite series, with part 2 always being the one that started it all.
Huh. Interesting. I just was thinking that's interesting because I've never seen any of those movies.
Really?
They're a little past my threshold of what I can handle, but I still am really interested hearing about them for some reason. Even though I know I'll never watch them, I like hearing people talk about them.
Oh yeah.
And I've heard a lot said about part 2. There's a lot to dissect apparently about that movie.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
There's a very interesting documentary that's going to be coming out that luckily, to show you how like life just works full circle. I became very good friends with Mark Patton over the years.
Really?
Yes.
Cool.
And he invited my family and I down to Florida to help film this documentary. And we're just waiting on the release date, but it goes very big into what people say and think and feel about specifically part 2.
Yeah.
And should be coming out. It's called Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. And I cannot wait.
Yeah, I really want to watch that too. That sounds fascinating.
That should be okay with your
sensibilities. It has a documentary veneer.
Yeah, there might be like a boo, but you're like, oh, facts. Okay, I'm all right now.
Yes, these are facts. These are things that really happened on a set with makeup. Now, my sorry, I mean to divulge, but I haven't met this man before, so it's nice to get to talk to somebody who's into this kind of stuff. But anyway, my beginnings with horror probably. As far as I can remember, if you don't count King Kong as horror, kind of.
Oh, I would.
Yeah,
I would.
Kind of. A lot of people die, but
it's a creature feature.
Yeah. Creature. There you go. It's a good term. But I think it probably begins with the original Frankenstein I saw when I was 5 years old.
The Boris Karloff
Frankenstein.
Must be something about 5.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, but that movie really got into my psyche in a way. Like, that movie never scared me. It never did. When I was 5, I wasn't scared of it. If anything, I only ever felt bad for the monster. And I guess looking back on it, although I obviously didn't realize it at the time, I identified with the monster because I didn't have a lot of friends my own age.
Through Girls in the Rivers.
Yeah, right. Through Girls in the Rivers. No, I didn't really. I was kind of tall and clumsy for my age, and I wasn't any good at any athletic anything.
You'll grow on that one day.
No, never will. Never will. No, and I had a hard time just communicating with people. I really did. I mean, I could talk, but the first thing out of my mouth would be, "Did you know that Steamboat Willie was released in 1928?" And they're like, "Who are you?" Yeah. So I just constantly returned to that one. After that, I watched Bride of Frankenstein and Invisible Man and a lot of that kind of stuff. And King Kong. Again, we want to call that. That was also pretty big. I just loved the stop motion. Stop motion fascinated me, and between those two, and also it has dinosaurs in it. Who doesn't love dinosaurs? And between those two movies, I still watch every year, at least once a year. I was fortunate enough to see an original 35mm print of King Kong.
Ooh.
A little while at the Dryden Theater in Rochester, New York, as one of the largest film vaults in the nation. So they have this big library they can pull out from. So I've seen a lot of cool movies that way.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Drew, first experience with horror films?
I was probably about 5 as well, and I'm trying to think. If I think really hard, it would have to be the first movie that scared me would have been Predator, which is not a horror movie exactly, but it does have a monster.
3 movies in one.
Yeah, that's horror action right there.
So, it starts out, it's an 80s action film.
Right.
I still haven't seen that movie, but I got it on Laserdisc, and I can't wait to pop it in.
You need to. It's amazing.
Then it becomes survival horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then it becomes man versus monster horror.
Sure. Yeah. That movie scared me as a kid. The Predator freaked me out. Not even so much when he took his mask off. Just the invisible thing running around like gutting people freaked me out.
Yeah.
Because of that movie, I would. Did you ever take the covers when you were a kid and you put them under your feet? And you have to make sure you're tucked in.
Yes.
Feet are tucked in.
Yep.
That movie was the reason why I did that, and I probably still do to this day, actually, because of Predator. But the first horror, when you think of the slasher genre or whatever, that kind of stuff, probably would have been Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. And I only say that one. That the one where they fight a skeleton at the end?
Yeah, Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors. Yeah. And then the reason why I was so scared by it is the part in it when Freddy rips the dude's veins out and controls him like a puppet. That weirded me out so bad as a kid. And the other one...
Did the Dawkins song scare you?
The what?
The Dawkins song.
Dream Warrior. Yeah, that would scare anybody. The other one that I remember, and I couldn't even tell you a specific scene, or I just remember seeing this one particular thing in it, and it freaked me out in a big bad way. Hellraiser. At 5, I saw Hellraiser.
Oh, that's young for that movie, man.
I don't think I saw the whole thing, but I did remember seeing the puzzle box and then chains come out of it and hook into people, and I'm like, I'm gonna have nightmares for life. And I think I still do, actually. That was my first experience with horror at a young age.
So many people are surprised when I tell them that Hellraiser was a book before it was a movie.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, see, right? Clive Barker, it's The Hellbound Heart. And then he's like, oh, they want to make it into a movie, and then they let him do it. And people will talk about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a great book. And they're like, oh, no, I'm talking about the movie. I'm like, yeah, I got that. It's also a book. You should read it. And they're like, oh, I don't want to read it. And I'm like, do you realize that some of your favorite movies are probably based off of books?
Oh, yeah.
Carl talking earlier about Jaws.
Yeah.
I read that, and your reaction to Hooper and Ellen Brody having the affair.
Yeah.
I was in my late 20s when I read Jaws, and I was like, my childhood is ruined. And it's I beg people, anybody who listens, just pick up these books if you can. Read them. It will give you a new appreciation for these films.
How about you, man?
I actually have an introduction to classic horror and an introduction to modern horror. My introduction to classic horror was through my father, because we had like back in day, I can't remember if it was like the Movie Channel or Showtime or something like that, would do the weekend before Halloween. They would just do a constant running marathon of classic horror movies, all like black and white stuff, Universal Monsters Library and whatnot. And I would just sit in that and just digest all of it. I loved the classic horror films, just watching them. My favorites were Creature from Black Lagoon.
I liked him too.
Fantastic.
Wolfman and Invisible Man were kind of like my top three of the classic ones. My introduction to modern horror was actually the same as you, as Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And it terrified me. It just ruined me for sleeping for a good long time until number 4 came out in theaters.
Dream Master.
4 or 5.
Dream Child.
Well,
Because
theaters, I'm trying to gauge the age.
well,
If you
no,
saw it
because
in theater.
I can give you a scene and you'll be able to tell me which one. But like
Yes, I will.
I was so determined to overcome this fear because all my friends were watching these movies and I didn't want to be the
wimp.
Yeah. So
I was never afraid to be the wimp. Never afraid. I was like, nope, fine, go watch it. I don't care. I'm out.
I accept
See
my
ya.
lot in life.
Yeah.
So I asked my grandfather. There was a new one in theaters. It was the one where it was Alice.
Okay,
I
well, that
think-
could be 4 or 5, so you're on the right track.
And there was the one where they kept replaying the same scene. Freddy had him running in a circle.
Yeah, that would be Dream Master with Alice and Dan, the lovely Lisa Wilcox, and
Okay.
Danny Hassel.
So that was number 4. And I remember that scene pissed my grandfather off because he thought there was something wrong with the film. Because they literally just replay the same scene like 5 or 6 times
Yeah.
before they stop and go, oh, it's Freddy. He's doing it. He's got us running
Yeah,
in
it's slight
circles.
variations on the scene.
And that kind of got me to overcome my fear of quote unquote modern horror. And then just like it seemed in the video store generation that like I didn't experience this so much with the classic horror, but with the modern horror, it was much more mass consumption. Like, as soon as you saw one, your group of friends were like, okay, we need to get this, and this. And just like there was a sleepover, and we do like 3 or 4 of them, and then move on to the next series and whatnot.
We were that way with Godzilla.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I noticed with classic horror, I was kind of in a boat by myself.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was kind of like a lot of your experience.
Well, that's a lot of my
growing
experience
up.
with everything I liked when I was growing up. No, but I mean, my brother would, and we made our friends watch Godzilla movies with us. So more so that, but if it was black and white, I couldn't coax any of my friends to watch it with me.
Yeah, I mean, when you're
You know?
younger, you just black and white just seems old and hokey and not something that
I
you
loved
want to.
it.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just like your most kids' perception
Yeah,
of it is
it's
that
true.
it's old, therefore it's no good.
Yeah, I never
That's
really
true.
cared about the classic stuff. I mean, I knew it existed, but I think my first exposure to like Frankenstein was like Son of Frankenstein.
That movie's great.
It
I
is
love
great,
Son of
but
Frankenstein.
it's not a horror movie, you know?
Oh.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
it
amazing.
scared my wife to death when I watched it with her 3 years ago.
Let's talk about Kate for a brief second. I love Kate to death. I still think she hates me, but I love her to death.
She doesn't.
She is the most fearful person I've ever met. Like,
When it comes
she
to
is.
movies. Yeah.
She is Scooby-Doo in that anything scares her.
Yeah.
It's baffling. Like, she was terrified of Big Trouble in Little China when I showed it to you guys.
Well, when the big hairy hand comes out and grabs what's her face there.
I kind of knew that was coming. I knew
Yeah,
I was going to get her.
That
but,
that was too much for her. She
yeah,
didn't
but
like
just
that.
seeing the monster freaked her out. And that's not like a really
Yeah.
scary monster. Yeah, it's
a
Jim's
great
looking at me like,
design.
really? I'm like, dude, yeah,
Yeah, no, she don't like that.
I'm enjoying it because I can
Yeah.
picture it. Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty, though, of the horror genre. It can show up in any movie, in any way. Like I always said whenever anybody told me that they didn't like horror movies, like, yeah, you do. You just don't know it. Because it's the one genre that literally has every single thing in it. It has your comedy, it has your drama, it has your action, it has everything in it. And you can pick out movies. You guys were talking about Venom earlier. Few clever tweaks, Venom's
Yeah.
a horror movie.
That's what I was
Punisher,
thinking.
few
Yeah.
clever tweaks, Punisher's a horror movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
It should be.
It really should be, honestly. I mean,
they were talking about Venom, and I was thinking, man, that would make a great like B horror movie,
right.
B horror monster movie. I would watch that in a heartbeat. I mean, I know you guys are bigger Spider-Man fans than I am, but my only memories of Venom is like the cartoon and stuff. So
a lot of the horror fans, a lot of the horror fans that I interact with are giant comic book fans because the two genres are intertwined. Man.
Sure,
they are just. They're complete fantasy with good versus evil. Sometimes evil wins, sometimes good wins. But at the end of the day, it's all about the journey through it, and it mixes so many genres into it.
Well, for the longest time, one of the easiest resources kids had to accessing the genre was comic books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, Tales from the Crypt.
Those comics are so
any number. Nate, what was the company that produced
That was EC Comics.
Yeah.
And a lot of other companies jumped on too. You know, DC was far from the only
Marvel
one.
had Tomb of Dracula and stuff like that.
Yeah, Tomb of Dracula,
or even
Werewolf
then,
by Night.
Even then, like, what's the one that Thor debuted in?
Tales of Suspense.
Journey into Mystery.
Yeah,
Journey into Mystery.
Those were
Tales
horror
That's
comics in the early 50s.
Yeah.
Before they became vehicles for more science fiction-y type stuff.
Yeah, well, then we had the book, The Seduction of the Innocent.
And that horror stuff had to go away.
Yeah.
One of my favorite covers of all time is that Tales from the Crypt comic with the dude holding the girl's head with the axe.
Oh, that's
brutal. But it's such a well-rendered image. It's iconic.
I think it's called, what is the name of that comic? It's something suspense. I don't remember, but that's the
something
suspense.
Yeah, I'm buying
it. I'm already on the edge of my seat.
So
this Wednesday.
That kind of brings the dismemberment makes me think of something.
Yeah.
So this is
shock suspense stories. That was the name of it. Sorry, go ahead.
In the genre of like horror, I feel like there is a sort of divide, but in my head growing up, they were the same thing, and that's all like one thing defined the other, and that was all. That was it. So like, what is the difference, and how do you see the difference between like a slasher movie and a horror movie?
That's a great question.
Are they mutually exclusive or are they intertwined? How does that? Because to me, when growing up, a horror movie meant there had to be a big bad slasher villain. Jason Voorhees in the 80s, man.
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Chucky,
that was the
Michael
predominant
Myers.
style.
Like that was a horror movie to me. And then like The Exorcist didn't really affect me in the same way, even though it's a horror movie, but without the big bad, it just without a high body count and bloodshed. Growing up, I didn't necessarily see them that way. So I'm wondering what you might think.
Your opinion first.
Yeah, well, I mean, in my mind, slasher is just one of the many, many subgenres of horror.
Okay.
You know, it is horror just as much as anything else is, but it's has a particular bent focused on a murderer and the murders themselves in a certain way. But, you know, I mean, there's tons of... I mean, there's the creature feature. There's another version of it. There's sci-fi horror. I guess the common thread is that people die, most of them, but how it's presented can be different. And I mean, there's haunted house horrors, mystery horror. Geez, I just watched The Cat and the Canary the other day. Are you familiar with that one?
I am.
Yeah, and that one has like one death in it, but it's still horror. You know, a guy wears a creepy mask and he's trying to claim an inheritance. You know, yeah, it's to me, slasher is just one of the many subgenres.
I think that divide really did start where you were mentioning in the like late 70s, 80s with Michael Myers and Freddy and Jason and all them coming through, and I think the huge reason for that was popularity and money. You know, these guys made bank for their studios.
They had characters too,
right? I mean,
you know, like because you had like Black Christmas that came before it, but
who remembers Billy?
Yeah,
you know,
nobody remembers him.
Nobody counts him as one of the great slashers of our time.
Yeah,
and like Leatherface. To be fair, like that was early 70s.
Sure, yeah.
But no one really ever considered him the slasher because it was a different kind of movie. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the few movies that still, for me, is like, I feel like I'm watching something wrong. Like, I love the movie because of just the way it was made and just the fact that it was basically a bunch of like students, like college age people being like, yeah, we can do this. Let's give this a shot. and they made this just iconic thing. I mean, this is in a national library. This film is in the National Library. And, rest in peace for Tobe Hooper for being able to pull this thing off. But, it's just an amazing accomplishment. But these things, these divides come up. And I remember actually having a conversation with Carl while we worked at, rest in peace again, Blockbuster.
Really, though?
About when something becomes popular in the genre, watch for the imitators.
Oh, yeah, of course. That goes for anything.
And that's when the subgenre starts, though. Yeah. Like Japanese horror. All of a sudden, they were everywhere. Yeah. And then it was zombies and remakes and vampires. And you can just go. And if you really wanted to just make a list, you could make all these subgenres. But it was just like he said a moment ago, it all just comes down to the same thing. Are you scared? Are people dying? How do you feel about it? And some of the best horror movies, really, they don't have the highest body counts. You mentioned Exorcist.
Right.
That is one of the few movies that gets me. That I could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon watching it in my house, all the lights on, sun coming through the windows, and I'm still like, I'm not going to get a glass of water. You go get the glass of water. I'm not getting up. And I've seen that movie hundreds of times, but it hits something in me.
Yeah.
But, I can name the deaths, or like count the deaths on one hand, and they're not, slashed, they're not stabbed, they're not butchered. It's all just like, most of them happen off screen. I mean, the one guy, you hear he jumped out of the window. And the Father Marin, you find him on the floor. It's just, it's what's up here in your head that really starts to get to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why, going back to Frankenstein, when they re-released that in the theaters in the late 30s, the scene with the little girl where he unknowingly drowns her, they cut out that part. And
really?
They just because it's too scary. So
quaint.
So now what happens is you don't see what the monster does at all. You just see the dead girl.
Right.
Who knows what he did to her?
Right.
I see. So your mind fills in the blanks.
It makes it worse.
Yeah.
And then if they had just left that scene in, I mean, 30s censorship is dumb anyway.
Sure.
The Hays Code and all that, but yeah.
But you can even going off of that same. What you think is even more scary. So many people call Texas Chainsaw one of the goriest movies ever made. Watch it.
Yeah,
I watched it.
Find the blood.
Yeah,
it's not.
You
really
don't
gory.
see a lot of it.
It's intense, but it's not really bloody.
It's just you. It just sets you at this feel of unease throughout. That you're like, oh, these people are being butchered.
Yeah,
but you don't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, you see the girl hanging. You see her writhing in pain, but you don't see blood. You just see pain, and that to me. 10 times worse.
It's the same thing with Psycho is like that. In the infamous shower scene, I think someone counted, went through the film strip and counted 3 frames where you see the knife penetrating skin. But the knife only penetrates maybe, I don't know, a quarter of an inch.
Yeah, paper cuts.
It's an audio medium, mate. They can't see what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. But that's enough to create the impression that you just witnessed a bloodbath.
Right.
And the sound effect
of
the knife penetrating skin is always what gets me in that scene as well.
Yeah.
Horror would be nothing without sound and music.
Yep.
Nothing.
Yep. That's why silent movie musicians were very important.
So, as far as especially with classic horror, because we have these characters that are, believe all of them are public domain in one form or another. Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, there's certain versions of them that Universal holds.
Yeah, I think
it's like anybody can make a Beauty and the Beast movie, but if you make a Beauty and the Beast movie with the Beauty in a yellow dress, and Disney's going to come and knock it.
Universal's Frankenstein design will go into public domain in 2026, barring Disney.
So
I don't think so.
Yeah. Nothing will ever belong to the public again.
Yeah, and obviously the classic, the original classics hold a special place in your heart, Nate. But I'm interested of what your thoughts on, we've had so many reinterpretations of these characters over the year. What are some of the ones that would fall still into kind of that classic time frame you feel were good? I mean, I know the originals for you can't be surpassed, but who kind of...
Well, it's not that they can't be surpassed, it's just what I like best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So then, like, what reinterpretations of those classic characters do you find you enjoy the most?
Young Frankenstein was very funny. I liked that.
Have you seen the? I guess I should ask because you're talking about reinterpretations of classics. Have you seen the Hammer versions?
I love those movies.
I haven't seen them, but I'm curious. About
my
them
gosh,
due to
man!
the
Talk about
cast.
another movie that scared my wife half to death. Curse of Frankenstein with Christopher Lee as the monster.
Christopher Lee was a genius.
when his face was unwrapped and you saw the Frankenstein face, my wife was like, "No, turn it off!" She was so freaked out.
I want to meet your wife,
and she was so mad at me. She's like, "You know me better than that. You know I can." I was like, "I'm sorry. It's Hammer. It's not that bad."
So you're saying I should watch these movies?
Yeah. They're fun.
Oh,
they're
Hammer
so much
films
fun.
They're a blast.
I really recommend. I mean, some of the sequels can kind of run together after a while, but man, Horror of Dracula is so good.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I love the way Christopher Lee plays Dracula. It's not at all Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi's got the very lugubrious sounding.
He's theatrical.
And,
As a kid of the '80s, I think I grew up more with the pop cultural parody of all those monsters than the actual monsters.
Oh,
so the
for
whole,
sure.
The Bela Lugosi impressions and the Frankenstein being fire bad. And all that.
Right. Which he only did in the one movie.
That's all I know.
Yeah, but Christopher Lee is more of an astute Englishman. I will tell you, you may have the house for the evening, and I will provide you with food and wine. It's Peter Cushing is great as Van Helsing.
And those, it's funny because like those
are the 70s or 60s?
50s. Well, they start in the 50s, they go into the 70s.
Wow.
And you can feel the generation.
Yeah.
Yes,
as it
you
goes.
can. You can feel the
so
generation
great.
and them failing to keep up with it. Yeah,
it's funny because
if you like pop culture history the way I do, like those failings to me are as interesting as the good stuff.
Yeah,
in my mind.
It's funny because though it was that generation of horror that went on to inspire games like Castlevania. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the Bela Lugosi Dracula, but like the Hammer films and In
fact, in the credits of the first game, they're all like terrible puns of people who worked. They have the Universal names in there, but they'll say game designed by Christopher B. and things like that. And
there
Glenn,
might have been a Christopher B.
Yeah, but you can tell that that's what they're going for.
Yeah, But aside from the Hammer, because I know there was a time with the Universal monsters where the actors a lot of times kind of played each other's parts. You
mean like Bela Lugosi playing the monster, or
Karloff,
Lon Chaney being Dracula, or Alucard.
Well,
hey, don't be dissing Alucard.
Yeah. That name kind of originated with Son of Dracula, Son of Dracula, and which thankfully, because when I rewatched Son of Dracula very recently, and the movie is more clever than it lets on. Because at first you say my name is Count Alucard. You're thinking oh my god, they're doing this in earnest, and then but then they figure it out 10 minutes into the movie. You're like, oh, okay, good. This is not going to be they're not going to turn this into a big reveal. But anyway, suffice to say.
So now, classic horror had reinterpretations. We're now living in an age where modern horror is getting reinterpretations, and something tells me it's not going as well as the classic horror interpretations. We've had a new Nightmare on Elm Street.
Let's not talk about that one right now. We're in a happy place, Carl.
We've had new Friday the 13th,
which I'll be honest, I liked.
We had new Halloween.
Yeah.
And as news recently announced, we're having a continuation of that new Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Not.
It's
exactly
not,
no.
Yeah, it's not a continuation of the new Halloween.
It's a continuation of the old Halloween.
Yeah,
it's like the Superman Returns of Halloween.
Yeah, basically what's going to be happening is Halloween 2 through How Dare You Busta Rhymes Resurrection are being scrapped, they never happened.
Okay. Well, it takes place after 2, right?
From what I read, it takes place after 1.
I read after 2 because
there's so many conflicting stories out there that it's you know what? Friday night when it comes out. That's when I'll know for sure.
All right, cool.
But I honestly, personally, hope it does take place right after 2, because for me, Halloween 2 is one of the best sequels to a horror movie.
Okay.
Like the hospital scenes, like I just think it's amazing. Like for somebody who has a innate fear of hospitals, seeing that movie, I was like, oh no. It's like, where is everybody? There's 6 people in this entire building. Like, what's going on here? But I honestly hope it takes place right after 2. But either way, whether it's after 1 or 2, because it's all the same night, it's supposed to be like, okay, here we go, and he's back. And that's all I really know about it. I just know that the whole thing of, Jamie, gone. The Thorn Curse, gone. The Man in Black, gone. All that stuff just is not going to be part of it. And Carpenter's back, producing credit, possible composer again, which would be great as long as they don't mess with the score too much. I'm a big believer, as I mentioned before, in
music
score.
Sure.
So if they were all of a sudden like, oh, that classic do 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 do, yeah, we don't need that. Let's make it poppy. I'll be like, no.
You can't do that.
Jaws has the music. That's how I know the shark's coming. I know Michael's coming by hearing those tones on the piano. So I don't need the air guitar. Let's move this on. But yeah, I mean, modern horror is getting its resurgence. I'm of two minds of it because I do enjoy my classics, both classics and then my modern classics. Mm-hmm. But I also get it. There's the monetary version, so I totally understand it. Studios want to make their money. But, I have kids, and they want to see these movies too, and they're going to want their version of the character, and I get that. I'm a diehard Freddy Krueger fan, and the remake, it had every opportunity to be amazing. And you go into any forum, and you will have people defending or decrying that movie.
I usually see the negative reaction to it. I haven't seen it.
And I'll be fair, I think Jackie did a great job.
He's a great actor.
But he was given a bad role. They just didn't give him enough to do. They basically were like, everything that worked in the original, let's do that. Oh, we need an original story too? Oh, I guess we forgot to do that part. They had a lot to work with. The whole waking dream thing. Great, but they didn't expand on it. The CGI makeup. Pointless. It takes away all the character of the face. You get no silhouette shots. He looks like a burned cat. It's just like everything that you need to make a charismatic villain, they were just like, we're not going to do it. I didn't care about the characters. So if you don't care about the characters, then they're just cannon fodder. So I'm just waiting for the movie to end to see how they off this guy. Like, that's really all that's happening. Whereas with the classic Nightmare on Elm Street, Nancy is amazing. Like, here's this girl whose friends are just getting offed one at a time. She's finally like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm going to go after him. Whereas this one, she's just complaining the whole movie, and then it's like, oh, I'm very upset. I'm going to go ahead and chop your neck. It's like, oh, it's done? Oh, okay. Well, $9.50 well spent. I guess I'm out of here. They could have done a lot with it. Whereas
that's disappointing.
I liked the Rob Zombie version of Halloween. I did not like Halloween 2. I liked Friday the 13th because it was what it was supposed to be.
Kids dying at a camp.
The whole point of the movie was we want to have 13 kills. It's a Friday the 13th movie. We want 13 people to die. They did it. It was enjoyable. It was fun. It's not Shakespeare. It's a guy in a hockky mask walking around and killing people. Yeah.
And in a modern interpretation, that's not even an era-appropriate hockey mask anymore.
Right. It's like, why don't you have the back covering, Jason? Your head's going to get really... In fact, if you watch the movie, that could have helped him a little bit.
Now, I didn't see the Friday 13th remake. Was it Jason, or was it true to the original first movie in that it was his mother?
No, they do something very smart. In the very beginning, they kind of do like a prologue scene with the mother. Okay. Almost like during the credits. Huh. And to kind of like get all the exposition out of the way. Like, oh, here's the entire original Friday the 13th in 20 nice summed up little seconds. But it worked. It was something to almost appease, I guess, any like newer fans to the series.
So where does that series stand now? Are they going to relaunch that too, or is that?
I'm bothered because, excuse me, they were going to make another one, and then the Ring movie The newest one.
Okay.
Rings, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Bombed. So they stopped it.
What does one have to do with the other?
Same studio.
Okay. Well, money's money.
Yeah. So let's talk about a phenomena that has occurred in both classic and modern horror. When you start to experiencing diminishing returns, team-ups!
Team-ups, man, yeah.
Team-ups.
House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Abbott and Costello.
The funniest movie
Why not?
ever made
I love that movie.
is Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein.
I wouldn't call it the funniest, but I love that movie.
It's the funniest
I
movie
love
ever.
that. I love that movie.
But no, you had like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
Yeah, Frankenstein
you had,
meets the
like-
Wolfman, where the monster's blind, but they never tell you that he's blind.
Yeah.
Poor Bela Lugosi. He deserved.
Yeah, that's the one where Bela Lugosi played the monster and
he was
Lon
supposed
Chaney.
to talk, and they cut out his dialogue.
Yeah.
They said it sounded too goofy coming out of the monster.
Yeah, because it was like, Frankenstein talking. And why does Frankenstein sound like Dracula?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it really was. And I mean, and if you had watched the prior film, Ghost of Frankenstein, you would have known that Igor, played by Bela Lugosi, and the monster swapped brains, and that's why he sounds like that. But in a non-Netflix, non-TV world,
Right.
who would remember after 2 years?
Yeah.
Unless some theater you were just really, really lucky, and your local theater showed it again recently.
So was it just like with the classics? Was it just a case of diminishing returns? Where
Oh,
they said,
absolutely.
okay, we need
Absolutely,
to throw,
it was that.
give people more bang for their buck?
Give people more bang for the buck, especially in the case of Universal. Their monster movies in the very early 30s were definitely more, or even in the 20s, were more prestige productions. Very lavish sets were built for like the Hunchback of Notre Dame or Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Opera's set still standing. It's that glorious. But when the Laemmles, Carl Laemmle, lost control of the studio in the mid 30s, the new people who bought it didn't even want to touch horror because they just thought, who would do this? Like, this is grotesque. Nobody wants to see this. They want to see glorious pictures with beautiful people. And but when they did a re-release of Frankenstein and Dracula in the late 30s, reluctantly, because they just needed money that bad, and it made a ton of money. And at that point, there's like they very reluctantly got back into horror. Just, fine, if it makes money, just pump it out through our B picture division. So
was that kind of the turning point when horror went from being very big budgeted to cheaply made, but money makers? I
would say that's where it started to get the stigma. I mean, there had been cheap horror for forever.
Yeah,
but I think that, like, with sort of the rise of Poverty Row Studios, these much lesser things like Republic Studios, PRC, Monogram, things like that would produce just these no-budget movies, get Bela Lugosi for $500 and call it a day. It started to take on this cheap feel, and, get even Boris Karloff at that point was like, well, I'm going on to Broadway, and I'm doing Arsenic and Old Lace. I'm doing a terrible Boris Karloff, but you get the idea.
Nobody would know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a money thing. It's all money.
So that's actually an interesting question I would bring up then about horror.
Yeah.
So it's largely seen as a cheap, quick genre, going back historically, but a lot of directors seem to get their start in the genre.
And actors.
Yeah. So I guess why is that? Is it because it's low entry point?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
low
that's
entry
why
point.
guys get in?
Yep.
Guys, girls,
Jack Nicholson,
Peter Jackson.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
No,
Jackson.
I used to
James Gunn.
I used to have this as a game when I was at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
I would say, name me a star, and I can probably tell you what horror movie they got their start in. Yep. And it would just be fun to pass the time, like Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, Leprechaun.
Yeah.
It's like these people probably aren't exactly thrilled all the time, but like one of my favorite things is when I was a trainer at one of my last employers, I used to say, here's a couple of questions. If you can get them right, I'll give you like a special thing at the end. And I would always
treat.
Yes, I would always ask, what was Johnny Depp's first movie? Now Johnny Depp, love him or hate him, one of the biggest movie stars in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His very first movie is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his claim to fame in that movie is being sucked into a bed and vomited up blood.
Yeah.
But he does not shy away from that. Like he was when he was on Inside the Actors Studio. He's asked about it, and he's smiling. He's like, "Oh, yeah. I was eaten by a bed." Like, his normal Johnny Depp demeanor.
And whereas what I think before that, it was much more a source of shame.
Yeah,
than it is now.
I think people used to hide like from it, be like, "Oh no, do not put that on my resume."
Yeah.
But I think now, especially,
actors were punished by being put into horror movies. I can't remember her name, but she was she had a reputation around a lot, and sort of in a way to punish her, they said, "You have to be in this gorilla movie."
Yeah, and, and they've since kind of joked about that in like Big Bang Theory made a joke about it.
Yeah.
There was another movie where they were like, "Oh, I'm going to put you in this," and it was like, "No, not like," and they said and her name escapes me.
Yeah. It's Beverly something. I don't know.
But it's funny because
one of those old lady names.
Now horror, it's cyclical. You know, it gets the respect, and then it isn't as popular, and then it gets respect again because it's making the money. Because right now, I mean, it's doing very, very well. You'll get these movies that people just rush to theaters to see and have huge openings. It, for instance, I mean, it's a remake.
I can't believe it did
anybody
that well.
who tells you it's not a remake is wrong. It was a miniseries, okay? It came out in the 90s. So it was 1990, I want to say. And then they redid it. And, again, book! So, please read.
A very long book.
#1 movie in America.
Yeah.
For a couple weeks.
And I saw it. I want to say 3 times. Paid once. I have very nice friends and family.
Oh.
I very much enjoyed it. And I've had people try to tell me that, no, it's not really a horror movie. Yes, it is. It really is.
Well, what else would it be?
They try to say, oh, it's more thriller, which I get so
Again,
annoyed by.
That's just a classist term. That's what that is.
That's the whole thing.
It's a classist
they don't want to say horror.
Right.
Because horror is the filthy term.
Right.
But you go to studio heads, and I bet you anything, if you ask them, so outside of your Avatars and your Titanics and your this, that, what's making you the money? Oh, they'll be naming their horror films.
Well, because they're cheap to make, aren't they?
Right. Yep. Blair Witch Project. I immediately think of that.
Sure.
You know, these low-budget paranormal activities, these...
Oh, my gosh,
hey, give me a few no-names and a handy cam, I'll make you $1 million guaranteed.
Yep.
Sign.
Film Dark Harvest 2 in Buffalo, and you'll make some money.
I was working at movie theater when Blair Witch Project came out. I have never seen such a diverse... Like, people were on one extreme or another with that film.
Right.
They either loved it or they hated it.
Which one?
Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch Project, yeah.
So, and working in theater, a lot of times you got to see films before they actually came out, and we did an employee screening of Blair Witch Project, and there we are in a theater, maybe 8 of us.
Nope.
After the theaters closed.
Yeah, that's a big nope.
Yeah.
And we got out of it. We're like, so you guys want to go hang out somewhere?
With a lot of lights?
Car, please.
Anything that prevents me from having to go home and go to bed. And ironically enough,
let's watch some old cartoons.
A bunch of us, a friend of mine said, I got this thing that I'm making these T-shirts for. I could use some help with. You guys want to come do that? We're like, sure, great, wonderful, grand. It was on Grand Island, and we were doing it outside. Grand Island is not well lit to begin with.
That's a whole bunch of no.
Oh, man, that was crazy. But
especially
it
if you're
seemed
by
like
that theme park.
It seems like with horror, there are those. It seems like with horror, there are those touchstone points where the game kind of changes,
100%.
and Blair Witch Project was definitely one of those.
Hard right.
Because at that point, like you said, how important music is to horror, and I agree. But at the same time, music, we're also trained to recognize when music's kind of tipping horror's hand a bit.
Right.
Like music is queuing up the scare, whereas things like Blair Witch Project, which had no music at all, the scare would come, and you're just like, I did not see that coming because I have nothing to prepare me for it.
But here's what I'll challenge you on that. I said music and sound.
Yes. Yes.
What
You're right.
got me in that movie? Hearing the stones clack off in the distance.
Yeah.
You had no idea where they were coming from, but you didn't know if it was 2 feet from them or 200 feet from them. Like, they were very smart with what they did with the sound. If it was just 3 people talking in a tent, I'm good. I can do this.
I can go camping.
Oh, okay. So they're lost in the woods, right? Okay. Oh, one of them's gone. Okay. Oh, that dude likes that wall. All right. Oh, it's over. All right, cool. That was good popcorn. I'm going to see it at home. Like that would have been the whole movie, but just the and just like the shaking of the tent, like all those sounds. I'm out.
Yeah. So something I want to ask you about, Jim.
Yeah.
Before we had Justice League, before we had Avengers, before we had Batman versus Superman, we had Freddy versus Jason.
Yes, we did.
And this was one of those movies that was talked about forever.
I have a yearbook from middle school signed "See you in the summer," and that was in the 90s. It was a lot longer than that it came out.
And like at first it was just like fans talking about, hey, what if they did this? Then the companies started to talk about, hey, we should do this. Then after years and years of developmental hell, we finally got a Freddy versus Jason film. Mm-hmm. You don't seem, you're not too happy
curious.
with that outing.
I'm curious.
Well, this kind of goes back to what you were saying about the team ups.
Diminishing returns.
Right. Yeah. Number one, the movie should have been made in 1989. They would have.
Yep.
They would have been able to write their own ticket.
Strike while the irons
100%. I mean, there's artwork out there, and I wish I could remember who did it. That is absolutely incredible. That shows like the Kane Hodder Jason with the broken mask and Robert Englund's Freddy, and it looks absolutely amazing. If that movie would have been made in 1989, every single fan of both of those franchises would have been. It would have been Star Wars lines around those theaters. It would have been absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah.
They made the movie in 2003. They missed the boat. That was the first mistake. The movie is called Freddy versus Jason. Not Jason hunts down a lot of kids and Freddy tells him to do it, and then they fight once, and then we have a intermission, and then they fight again. That's too long to put on a marquee, and they understood that.
Yeah.
But that's unfortunately the movie we got. There's some fun in the movie. It is one of my favorite movie-going experiences because it was something I waited so long to see. I had, I think, the first ticket in Buffalo because it had number 1 on it.
Wow.
We had a row of all the people that wanted to see it with me because they knew I'd been waiting. And so we all had a blast. You know, when Kelly Rowland gets, spoiler, thrown up against a tree. I mean, we were laughing, and when they finally fought, the little 5-year-old kid in me was like, oh! And then, I saw it the second time and the third time because I saw it 3 times in one day. That's how many people wanted to see it with me because they just couldn't all get out of work. And again, it must be that magic number here. I paid for it once.
Yeah.
And, you seeing it that many times, you start to really, the first time you enjoy it, the second time you nitpick, the third time you critique. And there was some good stuff, and then there's just a lot that they needed to work on. Number one, Kane Hodder needed to be Jason, and he wasn't. And for any fan of the series, that is a giant slap in the face. He'd been fighting for that movie for so long. He'd been Jason from 7 through 10, and he should have been it. Nothing against Ken Kurtzinger, who played Jason in that movie. He's a monster of a man, and that's what they wanted for the part. A very nice individual as well, but the fans wanted Kane, and they didn't get him. So right away, people were like, I'm a little bummed. Ronnie, who did the directing, Ronnie Yu, or Wu, I always get him confused. He did Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. You've seen those movies. They're comedies. So Freddy versus Jason became kind of a comedy. And the blood is like this metallic red CGI looking, so it just doesn't look right. The
CGI blood is never good.
Right. The death scenes, like the blood is like, you can hear psst, like hydraulic jets coming out when they're cut. I've cut my finger many times, fellas, and I never hear psst, and I'm like, it never happens. I mean, it's, for what it is, it's a fun movie, but like it's like Abbott and Costello meet Freddy versus Jason.
Well, I want to see that.
For anyone who really wants to see Freddy versus Jason the way it was supposed to be done, get the graphic novel, because there's two of them, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. They are incredible. It takes place right after Freddy versus Jason ended. Freddy versus Jason and Ash from the Evil Dead series shows up. It's what the sequel was supposed to be. They've wanted to have Ash in that universe for a while. If you watch Jason Goes to Hell, the Necronomicon is in the Voorhees house. They were able to put it all together. It is incredible.
Do you remember when we
Please
were
tell me
working,
you're going to bring up
when we were working at Blockbuster? I pitched you an idea.
I still think about this all the
I was
time,
like,
Carl.
I got an idea, Jim.
I've added so much to it over the years. I'm so glad you're bringing it up.
Batman versus Jason.
It could work.
The
Ra's al Ghul brings him to. It would work.
the original idea was Ra's al Ghul, Raish
I always do that, and I know you
wants
get upset.
to distract Batman, and he hears of a local legend of Jason Voorhees. So, long story short, he brings Jason Voorhees back and drops him in Gotham City. And Jason Voorhees goes to
does what he does.
does what he does and goes to the environment that's most familiar to him. So he's holed up in Gotham Central Park. So Batman goes in after Jason, and he sends Nightwing and Robin to go get Tommy Jarvis.
You're really bringing all this together.
Well,
And-
Carl
and
had this one great, pain idea of, Batman looking dead, at the reader. And, his eyes get big, and he's like...
Because all of a sudden you see snap.
Yes.
Like there's a twig. And all of a sudden Batman realizes that someone has snuck up behind him. He's like, nobody sneaks up behind me.
Yes.
And for a moment, Batman is terrified. And of course, Jason's behind him.
It's like the first time you see fear on
Yeah.
Batman. And it's just such a great idea. And, it was able to mix everything. We thought about how we could bring the other characters in. But
we didn't overload it at the same time either.
Right.
It was just
just
right.
enough. We were well, could we get Joker in? It'd be a passing fancy if we did. It'd be one of these things where he shows up and then Jason just backhands him and he's gone. It's just
So without diving too deep into fan fiction,
yeah, we could go an hour on that.
why don't we bridge the gap between modern and classic?
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
Ooh.
What do we think about the ever doomed to failure
Oh, you're not going where I thought you were.
dark universe?
And I have high hopes for it.
I don't know. I haven't
But-
seen any of those movies. I mean, Carl will tell you, I fail when it comes to seeing a lot of new movies. I try, and I've seen a lot of good ones, but for instance, I still haven't seen the new Spider-Man movie. I haven't seen any of the new X-Men movies.
It's okay.
might
Nobody
never.
saw the mummy. Nobody saw the mummy either.
Yeah, so or even anything like that. I almost didn't even see the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Shame on you.
But I did. I know, but I did. I mean, geez, I'll run through a list of movies I still haven't seen
Well,
at the risk of
we kind of.
But anyway,
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is...
But I look at that and I'm just I don't know, man. It seems like you're trying, just judging from what I've heard and what I've seen, it's like you're trying too hard in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? There's something...
cart before the horse,
yeah,
as it were.
There's something...
They made a Tom Cruise movie and stuck a mummy in it. They didn't make a mummy movie.
Yeah. Did you see the movie? The
No.
new Mummy? You didn't?
I haven't
Okay.
seen it.
No,
Did you guys see it?
no, I want to because it's the genre.
Yeah,
And-
sure.
Allegedly.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was billed as we want to start the Dark Universe. And I love that idea, going back to the earlier point of...
'Cause that's the
I have kids that
original
wanna see it.
shared
Sure.
universe.
Yeah, who doesn't want
in
to see...
movie history?
Yeah, who doesn't want to see a good Monster Mash?
Right.
You know?
Monster Squad.
It's one of my all-time favorite
Monster
films.
Squad.
A cult classic, and when I meet someone who says they've never seen it before, I'm like, here
You're
you go,
watching
you're coming
Monster
with me,
Squad.
Yeah.
and I'm going to change your world.
I still need to see that movie.
Here you go, you're coming with me, I'm going to change your world.
I know Wolfman's got nards.
Exactly.
And my name is Horace.
Yeah.
But, I want it to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you said it best, Carl. They put
They
Tom
made a Tom
Cruise in
Cruise
a
movie.
and put a mummy in it.
Yeah.
You need no-namers. If you want
Yes.
a horror
Yes.
movie, in my opinion, to succeed, don't put somebody familiar in the lead roles. Put them in a cameo.
Yep.
Be like, hey, that's that guy right there.
Yep.
Like Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll.
Like, right, that's like,
Sure.
that's a nice callback.
Or
I
even,
like that.
Or even going back to the Universal movies. Nobody knew who Bela Lugosi was before Dracula. Nobody knew who Boris Karloff was before Frankenstein. People knew who Lon Chaney Jr.'s father was, but they didn't know who he was before Wolfman. And those they made those roles iconic, and I think them being unknown bolstered them up.
Right.
You know, I mean, even going into more modern stuff, who was Robert Englund before Freddy? I mean, he was in stuff.
Theatrical actor and V. He was the alien on V.
I remember
there you go.
V.
There you go.
V
and
was great.
I think you're totally right on that. They got to get unknowns. It's the monsters that are the stars.
Yeah,
that's the star.
It doesn't seem like, because they pulled Bride of Frankenstein from their release schedule.
Yeah, like 3 days after I finished my podcast talking about it. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like, they had a really good cast too. Like, Johnny Depp is the Invisible Man.
Right.
I will go see that movie.
That's great casting.
It doesn't, because everybody nowadays wants to get where Marvel is now, and they forget that Marvel built it brick by brick. Marvel took their time, did it right. You know, started with...
They had movies that were good in and of themselves.
Yeah,
and not
too.
Just being part one of 18.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
So, and now just like, if it doesn't hit out of the box, like originally Dracula Untold was supposed to be the first one, which was great. I saw Dracula Untold. That's a good movie.
Still haven't seen it. Watch that one.
It's a good origin story for the monster Dracula,
Right.
because it also dips into the historical Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah.
But everybody like wants to do it in one shot now and like catch up right away, and they're not willing to spend the time and do it right.
Don't work that way.
Like Drew mentioned Monster Squad. Monster Squad, in my opinion, bridges classic and modern horror. It's like Monster Squad is the crossroad, because it has horror to it. It has comedy. It has action. It's got so much going for it. It's got a lot of the, for lack of a better term, tropes of modern horror, while still having the tropes of classic horror as well. And freaking fantastic visuals.
Oh, yeah.
You have a sympathetic Frankenstein.
That's
you have
key.
A truly scary creature from the Black Lagoon. I think the only monster that got shortchanged in that film was the Mummy.
Yeah, but really, what are you going to do with him?
Yeah.
In that realm. He's the weakest of the monsters.
The Wolfman looks fantastic. Yes. And they achieve a frightening Wolfman while having him be sympathetic.
Yeah.
Which is what you need to do with a Wolfman. And you have one of the all-time great Dracula performances by Duncan Regeer. Oh, God, this is so good. It's so good.
It's always good to have a Dracula that's okay with chewing up some scenery here
and
there.
And that's all he does the entire movie.
He's
you're so good. He's good.
He's sinister while not being cheesy.
Like, who takes time out of their dominant plan to blow up a treehouse? Like, it's absolute perfection.
He's taking it a little personal.
Yeah.
So Monster Squad's like the crossroads, I would say.
Yeah, I gotta watch that one.
Yes, you do.
I know.
Don't watch it with Kate.
I'll put it on the file.
No.
As soon as I said it,
Kate.
3 scenes popped in my head at once, and I was like,
Kate.
don't watch it with her.
Yeah, probably not.
I think we've kind of said. I mean, obviously, for this genre, we haven't said all there is to be said.
It's so
vast.
wide.
The well goes deep.
Reaching.
Yeah.
One
but we
thing
do have to
I would like to say before we cut it off, just to bridge it for you, Carl.
What's that?
A little piece of trivia that I may never have told you. Big Star Wars fan that you are. Would you like to know who gave your Luke Skywalker the idea to audition for that role?
Peter Cushing?
No. My guy, Robert Englund.
Really?
So every time you watch Star Wars, give a nice little nod of appreciation to Freddy Krueger for me, please.
Yeah.
Alrighty. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for doing this. This was a lot of fun and informative.
Yeah, talk to me about it sometime. I won't shut up. I'm sure the same goes for Jim.
Yeah, turn the mics off, man. I'm going to keep going.
We definitely appreciate it. Nate, tell the nice people where they can find you and find your podcast and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Nate_Lockhart. Just kind of talk about old stuff mostly. You can also find my podcast, The Memory Machine, through SoundCloud, and if you want to look for it on iTunes, it's under the Geekiverse. They have a singular feed for all their podcasts, so mine shows
channel.
up. Yeah, mine shows up under there. And of course, the Geekiverse.com. They do a lot of good articles and stuff. In fact, one of my buddies right now is doing a whole series on Stephen King, where he's reviewing, like doing these little chestnut reviews of like Stephen King short story every day for October. Yeah, and I don't know much about it, so it's been very informative and
that's very cool.
Making me want to go see if I can find some audiobooks or something for work. But anyway, that's
and you have nothing to plug.
No, but if anybody is local
if anybody wants to be my friend,
if anybody is local in the Buffalo area,
please be my friend,
and you're looking for a good Halloween experience, I am playing the Freddy Krueger character at the House of Horrors and Haunted Catacombs. So come on through and check out all the houses, and we're ranked number 1 for a reason. So come on out.
Nice.
What do you have to plug?
The show.
On the show. We plug the show on the show.
Download it again.
Folks, we appreciate you joining us. As always, if you would like to send us any questions, comments for the show, you can do so at the following locations. You can find us on Twitter at Devils Do Pod. You can go to Facebook.com/Devils Do Pod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com. Or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. Drew, any last thoughts?
I think I owe it to myself to watch some scary movies this week.
Yeah.
Do it. We'll have to see.
I think we'll make you a list.
I kind of got a hankering to watch The Lost Boys for some reason.
Oh, good.
Lost Boys. Man, you say you want to watch something spooky, and that's the one you go to?
To be fair, it has prime Kiefer Sutherland, prime Corey Feldman before he was totally insane anyway.
Yeah.
Prime Alex Winters.
Prime Alex, pre-Bill Alex Winters.
Let's give some props to Jason Patrick, who does not get enough recognition.
Speed 2.
We're not talking about Speed 2.
He's talking about recognition. Good stuff.
I think we said all we need to say about Jason
I think Willem Dafoe ate up all the scenery there was in that movie.
Well, folks.
Anyway.
It being the season, it is...
Cry Little Sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good.
Gotcha, see?
It being the season, it is... When you turn this podcast off, and you shut off the lights, get ready to go to bed... You hear that bump, creak. Hear that leaves rustle outside. Just remember, it's not a monster. It's not a poltergeist. It's probably just little Johnny and Susie playing a prank on you. Because it's Halloween. Or is it?